This presentation of FERPA is presented to the staff at Otis Bison. This presentation is done by myself, Mr. Stan Avey, in partial fulfillment of EDL 850 requirements. As you may or may not know, the Otis Bison School District is responsible for ensuring that all parents and eligible students are afforded all the rights provided them by FERPA. We as staff members may sometimes gain access to student information during our daily grind. This presentation will provide an overview of issues that we as staff members may encounter. Stay awake during this presentation as a quiz will follow. So the question is, what is FERPA? FERPA is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. It's a federal law that protects the confidential interests of all students and parents and student education records. FERPA applies to any education agency or institution that receives funds under a program administered by the U.S. Department of Education. With that being said, violations over FERPA issues may have serious repercussions, including the implementation of a plan of action to ensure compliance, as well as possibly risking federal education dollars. It is of utmost importance that we, as Otis Bison staff members, be trained, although not mandatory, in FERPA. The history of FERPA. FERPA was introduced, adopted, and implemented in 1974 and commonly referred to as the Buckley Amendment. The author of the amendment, Senator James Buckley, stated that this amendment would counter the growing trend toward violation of confidentiality and abuse of personal data by governmental and other busybodies. FERPA and its protection. As stated before, FERPA protects the privacy of students. Parents have the right to access their child's education records, as well as amend their education records. Parents have the right to consent to the release to third parties. The Otis Bison School District is prevented by sharing these records or personally identifiable information without the written consent of a parent. When a student turns 18, they are considered eligible students, and all FERPA rights are transferred from the parents to that student. We may, however, reveal information from student records to other members of our staff who have a legitimate educational interest in the information, such as a teacher or a particular teacher requesting a test score. Let's talk about some important terms or definitions. Confidentiality. That's a person's obligation not to disclose or transmit information to unauthorized parties. Parents. A natural or adopted parent, legal guardian, or an individual acting as a parent in the absence of a parent or guardian. Eligible student. A student who has reached the age of 18 or has attended a post-secondary institution regardless of age. Personally identifiable information includes the student's name, the parent's name, home address, a personal identifier such as the Social Security number or state ID, or maybe a list of personal characteristics, maybe activities that the student is involved in. Education records. Education records are defined as all records, files, documents, and other materials containing information directly related to a student and maintained by Otis Bison. This would include all records which are handwritten, videotaped or audio taped, electronic or computer files, film, print, microfilm, or microfiche. All special education records provided under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act are also considered education records by FERPA, or according to FERPA. Health records maintained by our school district, including immunization records and skilled nurse records, are subject to FERPA as well, since they are directly related to the students and maintained by an education institution such as ours. Exclusions to education records. Records which are excluded from FERPA include personal notes by the teachers or other staff members, if they are in fact kept in the possession of the teacher, not accessible or revealed to any other person, or used only as a memory aid. Also, records created and maintained by law enforcement are also included. Directory information. Directory information is any information used for the portion of the education record that would not generally be considered harmful or an invasion of privacy, if disclosed, including the student's name, address, telephone number, date and place of birth, any honors and awards, and dates of attendance. Continuing with the directory information, it's important that we give careful consideration to what is designated as directory information, since once it's designated, anyone who can request it can receive it. Parents in our district do have the right to refuse to allow our school to designate any or all of their child's records as directory information. Otis Bison must give public notice of how we disclose directory information. This public notice is given in the registration packet sent home to the parents before the start of school, as well as included in the school handbook and the school website. Annual notification. Otis Bison must notify parents and eligible students of their rights under FERPA. This includes those individuals with a disability and those whose primary language is not English. This must then be presented to them in their native language. Both parents have a right to review an educational record unless the parental rights are revoked by the state. Keep in mind that this is only limited to their own children. It is important to keep in mind that any information regarding other children be removed so the parents don't have access to other students' records. Parental rights. Parents have the right to inspect and review their child's records. Parents have the right to amend the record of any inaccuracies that may be found in the record. Parents have the right to consent, or perhaps maybe not consent, to disclose any personally identifiable information. Parents have the right to file a complaint regarding the district's failure to comply with FERPA. Again, this complaint is done through the United States Department of Education. Finally, the school must respond within 45 days when parents or eligible students file a request to review their record. And now let's see how well we stayed awake during this presentation with the following quiz. Question 1. Schools must provide a parent with an opportunity to inspect and review his or her children's education records within 45 days of request. That answer is true. Question 2. FERPA applies to any education agency or institution that receives funds under a program administered by the United States Department of Education. Again, that answer is true. Question 3. An educational record is defined as a record, file, document, or other material containing information directly related to a student and maintained by the education agency or institution. And if you pick true, you are correct. Question 4. The term directory information would apply to the portion of an education record that, if disclosed, would not generally be considered harmful or an invasion of privacy. And once again, that answer is true. Question number 5. Schools must individually notify parents other FERPA rights by mail. Although we really didn't cover the means that they will be notified, that answer is false. There are other ways that you can notify them other than mail, such as the school website, handbook, etc. Question 6. In a legal separation or divorce situation, both parents have the right to gain access to the student's education records unless one parent has no legal custody and that parent does not have rights under FERPA. That answer is true. Question 7. Favorite color is considered personally identifiable information. That answer is false. Question 8. Because immunization records are considered part of a student's education record, FERPA does not apply to these records. That answer is false. We do know that shot records are would be according or are part of the FERPA records according to FERPA. Question 9. The release of information to the eligible student without the parent's consent would be acceptable under FERPA. That answer is true. Again, remember that to be eligible, you have to be 18 or have some type of post-secondary education. Question 10. The release of information to all district personnel, including custodial staff, would be acceptable under FERPA. That question is false. Remember, only those teachers with a legitimate educational interest of the child. Question 11. The release of information to the Rush County News, for instance, regarding the final results of a student's disciplinary hearing of a high school student would be acceptable under FERPA. That answer is false. Finally, question 12. The release of information to a college at which the student intends to enroll and the request is for the student's GPA would be acceptable under FERPA. And that answer is true. This ends our presentation of FERPA. I would like to thank you for your attendance and your participation.